South Africa is probably one of the most inspirational places on the planet to be right now as a creative person, because it's a society that...
5 poets of South Africa voice their emotions on pride, hope, and healing in a changing environment. Poets implore nations to arise, to remember the integrity of craftsmen who resisted oppression. They boast about representation, liberty, and the freedom to speak. Poets of the land rejoice about loving ourselves, about finding respect, and above all, about being proud to be an African.
Ungum'Afrika. You and I, we are the keepers of dreams. We mold them into light beams and weave them into life's seams. You and I, you and I, you and I, you and I, you and I.
I have the privilege of doing a job that allows me to travel across the country and to see all types of places and to meet all types of people and to document my experience through poetry and to express that to people. And one of the things that inspired me the most about traveling across South Africa is witnessing the power that ordinary people have to transform their lives, to transform their perspective on their experiences through creativity. And I see that power evident in this place, in Constitution Hill. There are very few public spaces, government buildings, where I feel a sense of ownership as an ordinary person, as an artist. But this is a place where I do feel that sense of ownership, because this is a space that has been transformed from a site of extreme oppression, from a site of extreme dispossession and abuse, into a place where artists and ordinary people and children and judges and everyone moves freely and everyone makes a contribution to the space without destroying the history of this place. And I find that power inspiring as not just as an artist, but as a human being who has the power to be creative through my interactions with people. South Africa is probably one of the most inspirational places on the planet to be right now as a creative person, because it's a society that is truly transforming itself. And I mean, I know it sounds cliche, but the pendulum is always swinging in South Africa. It never stops. Many years ago, Fatima Meir was in prison here at Constitution Hill, and she created artwork as a way of documenting her experience here. I think also as a way of being able to cope, you know, using creativity as a way of being able to cope emotionally with being incarcerated here. And now that artwork is being displayed on the very same walls where she was jailed as a way of healing the memories in this place. An artist like Dumile Feni many years ago went into exile and died penniless as an artist, you know, before he could even come back to the country. But now his artwork is displayed here at the Constitutional Court. So I'm deeply inspired by the idea that creativity, that true creative expression transcends time, and that with the growth that we experience as a people, we gain the perspective to understand the value of true creative expression, even if people don't understand it in that time. The artwork of Dumile Feni, the artwork of Fatima Meir is healing this place, even though it comes from a completely different context. I hope that the ordinary person realizes that they are a creative agent, and that they are an agent of change in their lives, and that every action that they perform, everything that they do in their lives, especially their interactions with people, have an impact on their environment, on their space, on their community, and on the world. And that because of that, we're all creative people, whether we're artists or not. We're creative because we love, we're creative because we treat each other well, we're creative because we treat each other badly, we're creative because of the choices that we make, and all of those choices have an impact.
You and I, we are the keepers of dreams. We mold them into light beams and weave them into life's seams. You and I, we are the keepers of dreams. We mold them into light beams and weave them into life's seams. You and I. No life is not what it seems. We strip the fat from the lean and find the facts in between. The visions we redeem and the agony of choice. Yours is just a mind, and mine is just a voice. But when we love with a heat that would rise like a song in flight on the flesh of our backs. If it's love that we lack, then we walk with the pain that we seek. Love exchange that we spite. As we walk through indecision, riding on hope, fading in fright, we ride the crest of intuition on the journey of this life, and by the hands of the infinite, we hear the cries of the rest, weighed down by their intelligence, submitting to this test. But you and I push the boundaries of reason. You and I plot the mysteries of seasons. You and I paint this history to free men. Nothing can be stopped like you and I. We are the keepers of dreams. We mold them into light beams and weave them into life's seams, you and I.
Ikonja isibili ithi sithanda sami. Ungeyo ikonja ngitholele bonke abantu abatsha, wonke umuntu omutsha ngitholele ikonja le kakhulu emntwini onomuntu ozitshela ukuthi uyamthanda. Omthanda khulu kwamambala kunguye umuntu angayithulela kuye ikonja le. Ikonja lethi sithando sami ngitloliswe kungebanga lokubana kunesokana kunentombi nasi. Intombi le ekungiyo eyenza ingibageke enzela isokaneli. No isokaneli kuyafika isikhathi la intombi le igodukako namzukwana ibhubhako isokaneli isala lila and nakunjalo isokaneli akusana la lithembele khona. So sekukuthi lifanele lizijamele lilodwa. Kodwana kuthe ekuhambeni kwesikhathi nalithi liyahlala akuna liyabona ukuthi iminyaka iyakhamba kusele lithole umunye umkhamanzi. So kwaba ukuthi akube isikhathi sobana lithole umkhamanzi. Yeah, ukuthi omunye nomunye nakathola isokana akube lisokana ngilo alithandako. Kungabi ukuthi umuntu uthanda leli sokana naleli ngombana noma alo akuchiya akube ukuthi uthande yena kuphela, akungabi ngokuye nje kuphela nje. Isifundo sekondlo le ukuthi nanyana kubudisi kangangani ukulahlekela umuntu omthandako. Nawe indoda iwa namhlanje kusasa iyavuka, uvuka uzidobhe ndebele. Uvunule ivunulo lakho uvunje nekunja.
Useleni nje kodwa ngingathini na? Uphandleke ithumba mntabantu. Akusekho nami engingakwenza ukuvimbela isikhathi selanga bona lichingalanga. Ngikuthandile wena njengempilo. Yakelulela isandla sami. Sabuya njengezuba likaNoah. Sabuya nephasi elizela ithabo nethando engikuthanda ngaleli namhlanje. Isikhathi nelanga zabheja ubhejani nephondo lakhe nazizobona ngikuthanda kangangani. Ngalulukela iphimbo lakho kanti bengikugcina mhlanokho. Kezwa ngendaba bona sewukhuluma kuwe ihlomkhulu. Ihliziyo yami yavela ithuba yadela beyaqola. umuzi wagcwala utshani isibaya sazala amakhowa ngathi ngiyahlala ukuqina kwemhlathi kwalikhomba libaba nangithi ngilahla woke amathemba iminyaka nesikhathi zalikhomba libaba nazo ngatsho ngathi ayikhona ayibulali ngazombe.
The poem for the Violin-Maker is part of a much larger context, a set of perhaps 600 poems that make up a detective novel in verse. Now, the novel is set about 20 years in the past, in the mid-80s, a time of enormous tensions in South Africa. And it's set in the inner city part of Cape Town, where I worked as an apprentice and where I worked later as a jeweler. Now, one of the people in this culture, in the building where I worked, which was near the city hall, was a violin maker, and he was an old man then, and I've blended him with several other old men, largely Jewish men of the anarchist persuasion. And somehow for me, this notion of a violin maker, somebody who is hopelessly out of touch with the commercial world and yet in touch with the integrity of the hand-crafting process, stood out for me as a symbol of heart, a symbol of the connection that we make with each other through culture. So I used the violin maker as a symbol then to evoke what is most caring in our culture, the sense that we give our lives to doing something really well, because it's very difficult to make a violin. You really have to be a good craftsman. So I imagined this man who not only could make a violin, but also who had heart. But then I thought, hang on, heart isn't everything. There must also be resistance to oppression. So my violin maker, like many of the old anarchist men, fought in the wars. He opposed injustice, but ultimately realized that music, the cultural life, was better. This was the thing to which he gave his life.
Joey Finkel calls himself the last anarchist in town. He's been here over 50 years, making fiddles right here, except the wars, 6 days each week, sometimes 7. I don't go with religion. I work when I like. That's most of the time, because, you see, I love to make them. My babies, He reaches among the shavings and tools and dried out glue pots and oil rags for a block of wood on which is drawn the fine curved outline of a violin. He holds the block up to his ear, knocks with a knuckle whose backlit white hairs make lines of light. He says, "Listen to that. With care it will sing. You can hear it. Listen." He says, most people don't take care. And you know why? Because they don't care. Look at it for yourself. Apartheid, the rich robbing the poor. The poor, they rob each other. Sure, some people fight for them and a few of the poor fight too. But that's not enough. All of the people must care enough to stand up for themselves. I fought in Spain and against Hitler in Africa. Then I got tired of fighting. It has no heart. Music is better. He tucks the block of wood under his chin and humming bows the air left-handed. He says, "We can live without money, without nations," and he spits into the shavings, "without rabbis and priests." He moves his hand to pat his heart, and the block falls to the dust, and he ignores it, touching his breast. "But without this heart, we are nothing, and less than nothing."
Afrika borona khakolwa ditibone le tsalwa me bala tokologo ya botlhe go tla ke mmala wa tshwana go thela mola godimo tshaba tsa ba mososososo mothaladi ka tsepa gore le boile ntse le utlwetse me bala yotlhe ya nela ke ba di bosetšhaba me bala yotlhe ya lekalekana go tsena kgethololo a tla dingwa tsa ikukisa go tshwana kwa le itshupala nthatio ya maloba tshaba tsa kgitana tsa nna selo se le sengwe lwana wa itse fa le mmele kgaogangwa mme bosopotlana ya falala tsa moja se tsa thutwa a goroga ngwana moelwa ke botlhe ya goroga demokrasi magatapa a tshaba mangwele jaana a saile
leboko le ke le kwadileng le mabapi le maikutlo a me a ke ne ke lebelela setšhaba se ke tshitseng mo go sone e se ke tsaletswe mo go sone go ne go le botlhokonyana mo nakong ewa ga o ne o ka lebelela sentle re na le tlhokego ya metsi re na le tlhokego ya motlakase jalo ka nako dingwe le ga o ne o ka ikutlwa o ka re o ka bolelela motho sengwe kgotsa batla go ikise motho selo sengwe se o ikutlwang ka re o ka se bua e be nna gore go nna matsapa ka gore yaanong bagolo ba ne ba le bosisi gore ba ne ba tshaba gore o tlogo o bue hela ko bohelong o tlaheletsa jaanong e nna gore ka re o na le moya mongwe o tlhagelelang kgotsa o tsenya mo bathong selo se se be se tshwenya ke ipotsa gore ma a gona le mongwe yo o ka lekang go ka tla ko go rona a tla go utlwa maikutlo a rona a gona le mongwe yo e leng gore o lebeletse tšhotlego yo ka teng e mo go rona ka nako tseo motho sa kgone go bua sengwe le sengwe and o ne o ka seka ke wa tlhamalala o le mosimanyana o bore nna ke ikutlwa jang ntle le seo o ne o tshwanela ke gore o ka bua le bankana ba gago yala mme ga o ka utlwiwa ya gago ene le nkgo jaanong ka poeme ka 1994 ke ga jaanong go tla sedimosetso mo go nna gore selo se gante ntse le maikutlo a batho ba batlang go a tlhagisa ke a go simola ba di buetsa ba ja monate ba itumela ba simola ba dira dilo tse e leng gore ga ba tshwanela go di dira ka ntate ya gore ba ne ba itumetse jaanong selo se sa be se tla mo go nna go raya gore batho ba ntse ba na le sengwe se ba batlang go se bua go raya gore batho ba ne ba na le sengwe se ba akabatsang mme ba sa itse gore ba ka dira yang ko bofelong go tlile motlha o batho ba lotsang melodi ba ja monate ba bolelelwa gore o na le tokologo ga go ka bua o na le tokologo ga go ka batla se o senang sone o na le maikutlo a go ka tlhagisa dintlha tsa gago wa nna le menelo mme jaanong go nna le tsholetso ya gore batho ba tla ipusa batho ba tla bona metsi batho ba tla nna le tekatekano batho ba tla nna le kemedi ya bosetšhaba bana ba tla tlhokomelwa dinese di tla itse gore ba moimana ba tlhokomelwa bana ba tshudilweng ba sina borra bone ba tla nna le sengwenyana se tla tswang e le phimolakeledi go tswa mo pusong e le ka mokgwa mongwe wa go tlamela batho go tlile yaanong ka mokgontsi ya ke sone se se ileng sa dira gore ke nne le tshusumetso ya go kwa lebokoleng mme mo go lone dikarabo tse di leng tsaka batho ba na le metsi batho ba na le motlakase na le mahelo a pholo le ha re a lebelela jaana wa bona gore go na le maiteko mangwe a dirilweng ha o lebelela mo motsing mo motlakase kuolo heta kuolo ha o lebelela ngo bongwe le nngwe e o e bonang mo go na le motlakase go na le tsela ya metsi tsela e fetang fa ke ya metsi ka lenyana o e bona mo ele ke ya metsi mongwe le mongwe o itlhelwa ke sengwe le sengwe dilo tse ke dilo dingwe tse e leng gore batho ba ntse ba batla go di bona mme di diragala go mo go bone ba sa di bone so ra itumela botlhe ba itela bana ba itumela le batsadi ba itumela ka mokgontseng ya ke se se ileng sa dira gore ba itshete go apokwa tlantse ya ke a leboga
Ukuqala kokubhubha komuntu ukuqala kokufa kolimi lwakhe. Ukuqala kokufa kolimi lomuntu ukushabalala kwamasiko akhe. Ukushabalala kwamasiko omuntu ukungcwatshwa komlando wesizwe sakubo. Kungani ngisho ngikhuluma ngalendlela? Ngikhuluma ngalendlela ngenxa yocwaningo esalithatha siya ezikoleni sinomlingani wami engisebenza naye. Sabhala imibuzo eminingana lapho sithanda ukwazi ukuthi ngabe abafundi bayakujabulela yini ukufundisa ngezilimi zomdabu. Le mibuzo sayinikeza othisha kanye nabafundi saze sabacela ukuthi mabethanda bangaphendula ngesiZulu noma ngesingisi okumangazayo ukuthi bonke labafundi cishe iningi labafundi laphendula ngesingisi. Lo kwase kuyawephula umoya wami ngase ngiyabona ukuthi ingane zethu kwangathi azilithandi isiko lethu futhi nazo ngokwazo azithandi. Sesifikile isikhathi sokuthi sithande namasiko ethu. Ngingajabula kakhulu ukuthi uma abantu befunda lenkondlo ethi Ungum'Afrika babe nako lokho kuziqhenya nokuzithanda ngolimi lwabo. Kodwa wena ngokwakho ufuneka uzithande usondoze eduze. Thina njengabazali ufuneka ukuthi sizibiza ngosinza labantu umntwana ufunda ulimi lwakhe alincela ebeleni. Ngawo kimi kubhlungu ukuthi esikhathini esizayo abantwana bazothi mina ngancela isingisi ngasincela ebeleni. Kungani? Ngenxa yokuthi yithina omama esikhulumisa abantwana ngesingisi. Silungile isingisi ngoba siphile emhlabeni wabantu abahlukahlukene kodwa masizithande thina kuqala sicule umculo wethu siphinde nenqephu yethu siyidle sibe bahle sihloniphe sithande ngoba akukhulu ukuthi ungathanda umuntu ongayithandi. Ngakho-ke ngamanye amagama ngifuna ukuthi umuntu ozofunda lenkondlo azi ukuthi kuyini kusho ukuthini ukuba umAfrika kanti kusho ukuthini ukuba umuntu walapha eMzansi. Mina nguDanisile nje wakwaNtuli ngazalwa ngingowakwa Masilela. Ngiyaziqhenya ngokuba intombi yeNdebele ngesikhethu ngithi ngiyazikhakhazisa ngokuba ngumNdebele kodwa angikhohlwa nokuthi futhi ngingumnguni. Ngawo-ke ngisho njalo nabantwana bethu ukuthi fanele bazazi ukuthi bangobani nokuthi baphumaphi futhi bakwazi nokukhuluma izilimi zabo sengisho nezithakazelo zabo bazazi. Ungum'Afrika ungumsinsi wokuzimilela ngane yami, ungowengabadi, ungowomdabu, ungumuntu onobuntu. Ungum'Afrika omnyama ondlela zimhlophe. Uyisizukulwane samaqhawe namaqhawekazi, amaqhawe alwela inkululeko. Uyisizukulwane sobhambatha kamakhwatha, uyisizukulwane sikaShaka Shayeki, uyisizukulwane sikaMkabayi kaJama. Ungum'Afrika ngane yami ziqhenye ngobuAfrika. Awumncinyane kwelengabadi. Izolo nakuthangi sasiyinhlekisa sihambela eceleni kwendlela umntwana womlungu edishazela agcwale umgwaqo umntwana womlungu esibiza ngeboyi negeli sikhuze uyebo bus sihleka inklinini namuhla seligaya ngomunye umhlathi sidla izithukuthuku zamadela kufa izishoshove zayishosholoza njalo zathi phambili ngenkululeko phambili futhi zenanela izidlamlilo zathi amandla ngempela ubunye babungamandla nyathela kuzwankale ngane yomAfrika ibuyile eAfrika ngane yami ziqhenye ngobuzwe bakho ziqhenye uqhakaze ibuyile eAfrika kunamhla lokhu kumnandi ukuba ngumAfrika zalwa kabusha umuntu omsha uvuseleleke phaphama vuka vuseleleka uhlahlameliseke vuselela isimilo sakho vuselela ubuntu bakho ungum'Afrika mAfrika leli ithuba lakho eAfrika muntu omsha ziqhenye ngobuzwe bakho ntombazana ziqhenye ngebala lakho mfana ziqhenye ngobuwena ungafuni ukufana nabanye ziqhenye ngane yami ungum'Afrika nyathela ngesigqisa seAfrika uzidle qeqebula ngolimi lakho uzazi dlubha imvunulo yesintu upigoge tiloza ngomucu wesintu uzwakale masisibuyiseni isithunzi sethu yithuba lenu leli zingane masakheni isizwe sethu masakhaneni masigubhe nyathela kuzwakale ngane yaseAfrika ziwile izindonga zencindezi masigubhe phinda uthathe okwasilahlekelayo awumncinyane kunezinye izizwe bebhezelisa iflegi laseningizimu Afrika bebhezelisa iflegi lobuwena ungum'Afrika eAfrika